I am curious if anybody here has a birthday on December 25th. Anybody have a December 25th? Nobody? I always felt sorry for those people in church when we'd have a children's sermon like that, and they'd say, "And whose birthday is on Christmas?" And Sally might raise her hand and say, "I do." And the person would say, "No, but whose birthday is it really?" You know, it's hard to compete with God on something like that. Well, I've been dreaming again, which is a good thing. I don't mean that I ever stopped dreaming, though there was a period back in the mid to late 90s where it seemed like I couldn't remember any of my dreams. And I'm not only having big dreams, I'm remembering my big dreams. You see, a dream that's not remembered is just like short-term entertainment. But if you remember a dream, it can change your life. It can change your life. It was about a year ago. I had this dream several times. It started about last December. I am outside the sanctuary in church with my black robe on, preparing for a wedding. I only wear a black robe at weddings because only the bride can wear white, not me. Never want to upstand the bride. But I'm outside about to go into the sanctuary for the wedding. Assisting me is a bishop. We walk into the sanctuary. We go to the very front and we stand right there. The groom comes in with the groomsmen and we are waiting for the bridesmaids to come down the aisle. You got the scene? You got it in your head? I look down at my feet and I see my feet and not my shoes. And I think, oh my gosh, I forgot to put my shoes on this morning. And nobody could see it, but under my robe, I was wearing short pants. I could get away with that, but the shoes, everybody could see that. So I leaned over to the bishop and I said, "Bishop, I'll be right back." And I slid out the side door, started walking toward my office to get my shoes, and that's when my dream entered that phase where it seems like every step you take toward your office takes 100 steps further away. You will never, ever, ever get there because everybody in the world has some need they need to ask me about at that very moment. Can you tell me where the coffee pot is? Can you tell me what time? What room? I don't care. I've got to get my shoes. Everybody's in the sanctuary. They're waiting for me. We can't do the wedding. And I never get to the office. Finally, I get there, and there are my shoes right where they're supposed to be. And I quickly put them on, and I run back to the sanctuary. And as I'm opening the door to go back in, the couple comes out. And it's over. And I stand there with my head hanging in shame as the couple comes out. And the bishop comes out. "You wait, I'm sending you to Tangier Island." And the congregation comes out. "You wait till staff parish meeting." And they just come out, and I'm thinking, how did this happen? How did this happen? They say that dreams like this are a key, a window into the unconscious, into those parts of our lives we're not always aware of. And that's a good thing because life is so full of facts and figures and data. We have computer contraptions and technology that can do all sorts of things. We have more ways to stay in touch with one another than we can keep up with. But in the midst of it all, there's a lack of courage. So much is predictable. So much can be done. But where is our sense of courage? Where Well, I think we don't dream dreams anymore. There's a lack of dreams, and we need to look more at our imagination, because I think imagination is one of the key ways that God speaks to us. The scriptures are full of people who had big dreams through which God spoke to them. I mean, Gideon and Moses and Jacob and Abraham and Joseph. Joseph was known for not only for his dreams, but his ability to interpret them to Pharaoh. David, Abraham, so many others, these people had dreams, and it was through the dreams God spoke to them and gave them the courage to stand tall. Not that they were any better than anyone else, but they heard the call. And that gave them the authority and the courage to step forward. God speaks through dreams, through imagination. God goes beyond the routines of our lives to get inside our heads. And once God gets in there, it's hard to get God out of there. Today's scripture, for example, it's that story about one of those extraordinary, strange, unexpected events. It's this guy you can't get out of your head. It's John the Baptist, that wild man of the gospel who dresses in camel skin. Don't think camel hair suits. This is a guy in camel skin. This is a guy who eats bugs. This is a guy who lives out in the wilderness. He's wild. People probably think he's nuts, but they flock to him in droves because he speaks about something they want and they haven't got. Something about this person who is coming, who is going to bring us closer to God than we've ever been before. This person who's going to come, who's going to turn the church and the synagogue and the temple upside down because he doesn't think the way everybody else thinks. And then the gospel writer, after introducing us to John, goes to great lengths to relate John to the Old Testament, to the Hebrew Scriptures. Because if the New Testament doesn't relate to the Old, what's the use in that? For Jews and for Hebrews who are looking for something in the future. And so John was born to a couple named Elizabeth and Zechariah. They were childless, and they were getting up there in age. And this was a Jewish culture that really elevated the status of people by how many children you had, and especially if you had a male child who would continue the family name. And if you had no child, no children, then there was a public scorn. Evidently, if you don't have children, it meant that you did something wrong and God is punishing you. This is not me. This is the way it was understood back then. And so Elizabeth and Zechariah probably weren't invited out a lot. Probably didn't feel as welcome in community circles as other people did. Didn't have the respect that others did. And so they resigned themselves that they had been stuck with this great, big, good housekeeping seal of disapproval. Now think, who in the Old Testament was elderly, had no children, and out of the blue have a child? Abraham and Sarah. God said in a dream to Abraham, "As for Sarah your wife, I will bless her, and moreover I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she shall give rise to nations. Kings of peoples shall come from her." And how did Abraham respond to this news? He fell on his face laughing. Can a child be born to a man and his wife who are 100 years old? I imagine that laughter came from living with the scorn of society for so long that even bringing the subject up is just a cruel joke. I suspect the laughter was one of those tear-laden laughs, the bitter kind of laugh where you've cried so many tears, you just know there is no hope. But the one that had the last laugh for Abraham and Sarah was God, because they did have Isaac at 100 years old. And just like Abraham and Sarah, Zechariah and Elizabeth had John. John is related to the Old Testament, and Luke ties John to the greatest patriarch of our faith, the one who brings God to the people and offers ways that God will save them from their sins. In John, God prepares the way for Jesus, who will do the same. And every year at Advent, we hear the same story about John coming and preparing the way for the Lord. Look ahead, the Lord is coming. Look into the future, the Lord is coming. And he said that year after year, and we repeat it year after year. Look out there, Jesus is coming back. Keep looking. It's been 2,000 years. And there's a part of me that thinks maybe he will come. But maybe I'm looking so far ahead, I'm not paying attention to the here and now. And maybe, just maybe, Jesus has already come, has already walked this earth, is already here, and is already doing good things in God's name. And I'm missing it because I'm looking over there, so far ahead. I'm missing the forest for the trees. I think John's message for us today is that God is already doing something in our midst, but we need the imagination to see it. We need to pay attention to our dreams. We need to listen to what God is doing. You're going to hear Hannah Hansen speak in just a few moments about our Advent offering. And hearing Hannah speak at our earlier service, this is a person whom God has called and has chosen to do the work of a missionary in South Africa and now in New York. She's excited about that. That's what life is like when you listen to your dreams and you sense the call and you don't always understand it, you don't always agree with it, you don't always whatever, but you go with it. You go with it. Will Willimon has said that imagination allows us to see things that we might normally ignore, and that it might even mean taking risks, because the world may not really be as it seems. And it's only through imagination that we come to see the world for what it truly is. That's why Christmas is such a magical time. It's about imagination. It's coming to church on Christmas Eve, and it's full of people. Some of those people you haven't seen since, Easter maybe. But they're here. They're here. And why are they here? It's because that night, like no other night, is a night we feel close to our Creator and our Redeemer. We light candles, we break glow sticks, we hold up lights, we sing carols. It's a magical night. It's a night of imagination. It's a night where every footstep we take, it feels like we're stepping on holy ground. And it's a night God calls, and we hear, and we listen. But to get there, we've got to get through Advent. We've got to get through John the Baptist. Prepare the way of the Lord. Pay attention to what God is doing in your midst. Start listening to your imagination. What a year it's been for Mount Olivet. It was earlier this year that Pastor Tim told you he was moving to another congregation. And it was from that moment that you began preparing and imagining, what is it going to be like without Pastor Tim? And then you said goodbye to him. And then in steps Pastor Ed and Sharon, and you're asking yourself, what's it going to be like with this new guy? What's church going to be like? Some of your children, the only pastor they've known was Pastor Tim. That's a big change. That's a new way of understanding who the minister is. Imagine what God is calling us to do and who we are to be over the next 5 to 10 years as a congregation. That's an exciting thing. There's so much going on in our midst of preparation this year. I think we are in that place where, well, let me get back to my dream. A colleague told me that in dreams, whenever you dream about your feet, it has something to do about your pathway in life. And maybe as I reflected on this, maybe my dream, not being able to find my shoes and being on this road that never seemed to have an end, maybe it was revealing that I had lost my way. Or maybe the way I was going wasn't cutting it anymore. I wasn't getting excited. I mean, I loved the work I do, but I didn't wake up Sunday mornings just raring to go like I had before. Maybe I was spinning my wheels in place and not really getting anywhere. Maybe it was time for a move to a new place. Place like Arlington, church like Mount Olivet, where things were very similar, but also very different. Maybe you're in that place today as well, where getting up in the morning just isn't cutting it anymore. You're not excited. It's like you know what you got to do today, but you'd much rather be doing something else. Or maybe you sense, God, I think you're leading me in this other direction. What do I do with that? What do I do with that? Maybe together we need to let go of some of our old ways. I think losing my shoes meant letting the old ways go and putting on new shoes was putting like new wineskins and a new opportunity for what lies ahead. Maybe you would join with me in this journey, listening to God's call, letting go of some of the things of the past and looking toward what God is opening up for our future. Whenever people in the Old Testament heard the voice of God, sensed the direction of their lives, they sensed that the ground became holy in that place. And when they sensed holy ground, they would take off their shoes. Because you can't wear your shoes in this holy place. And I sense, having lived through these past months and all the changes, not just for me, but for you as well, that all that's going on, somehow God is a part of that. This is holy ground, and we are God's holy people. What is God calling you to do? Where is God calling you to go? You see, each and every one of us is invited to be a disciple, a follower of Jesus, and to find that place, that thing that we are to do, but we've got to imagine what that will be. We've got to make room for God in our lives, and then God can have God's way with us. I invite you to join me on this journey. You know, last year at this time, it was my 25th year in Richmond. I knew everything that happened in Richmond every day of December all the way up to Christmas. But this year, I can't tell you what's going to go on this afternoon, much less next week. I love it. I'm learning everything all over again. God's doing great things. And God's going to do great things through you as well. O come, Emmanuel. Amen.